So I was talking about why Stefon Diggs made the move to the Patriots, a team that, by most accounts, isn't going to make a push for the playoffs this season, maybe not even next season. Drake May looks like a promising young quarterback, but he's still got a lot to learn. I mean, I guess he's somewhere in the mold of a Bo Nix, and Bo Nix has the Broncos a playoff contender already. So I guess, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that the Patriots could get to the playoffs this season. But it's not an immediate kind of situation that Diggs went into in New England. This looks like a team that's, if not rebuilding, then is on the way to ascending in the NFL. But Diggs, 31, like I said, old for a wide receiver, also coming off an ACL tear in October of last year. That's not that long ago. Coming back from an ACL tear in October, it would be hard for a 22-year-old player, much less a 31-year-old veteran, as Diggs is. Maybe he wanted a situation in which he wasn't pressured to bring the team to the playoffs, where maybe he was just going to be relied on as that primary pass catcher. In any case, Diggs has considerable upside as a Patriot now, especially in PPR formats. He's always had a nose for the end zone for a smaller receiver too. So it seems like really a perfect match on the field. A safety valve for Drake May. Plenty of targets to keep Stefon Diggs happy. And not that much competition otherwise. We got Mac Hollins. He's the only other tried and true receiver for the Patriots. So it's good news in fantasy land, as far as I'm concerned. Russell Wilson said he expects to be the Giants' starting quarterback. Wilson, who was signed on Tuesday, a 1-year deal, $10.5 million guaranteed. Russ wouldn't have signed there if the Giants weren't planning to have him as a starting quarterback. That's what he wanted to be. And Jameis Winston has been said to have signed knowing that it was probably a backup role, we know now. He'll compete with Tommy DeVito for the number 2 role. I don't think he'll have a big problem in getting it, though. Winston is on a 2-year deal, though. Wilson just on the 1-year deal. So it looks like if things don't work out for Russ in New York, Winston will be there for a couple years to help bridge the gap to whoever the new quarterback is there in New York. Hopefully Shedeur Sanders, if you're a Giants fan. But Russell Wilson, as we talked about when the trade was made, makes for a middling quarterback option for the Giants. Better than a Daniel Jones, I must say. But I actually like Jameis Winston more for fantasy. For Malik Neighbors, somebody who can air it out. Russell Wilson seems to have lost that loving feeling in his shoulder, his throwing arm. Malik Neighbors is the kind of player that can do a lot of damage with a little bit. You don't have to chuck it downfield for him to do damage, but you want those options. You want that option to take it downfield. Russell Wilson brings less of that into the mix. And more football news. Speaking of Daniel Jones, Colts GM Chris Ballard sees a lot of similarities in the skill sets of Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. If you see a lot of similarities in those two quarterbacks, why'd you bring Daniel Jones in? You don't want a quarterback who's just like Anthony Richardson, if that's what you really think. Because Anthony Richardson hasn't really been good for the Colts. Why would you bring in a guy that's just like him? Why would you bring in a guy that's just like him to compete with him so you can't see if Richardson is going to be your quarterback of the future? You'll put Jones in there. He'll play similarly to Richardson. He'll play just well enough some of the time to keep the starting job, but you won't learn anything more about Richardson. And Jones doesn't really bring a change of pace to Richardson. So you're not really seeing the other side of the coin, what a different type of quarterback would be like. Seems like a bad move for the Colts, but I said that when I heard about the trade. The acquisition, excuse me. Jones signed a 1-year, $14 million contract worth up to $17.7 million with incentives. I don't love it for Richardson. I don't love it for the Colts. I don't really see a win-win situation here for Indianapolis. Richardson probably isn't going to get enough playing time for you to realize that he is the guy in Indianapolis. And Jones is going to get, is not going to get enough time under center either to realize if he's a better option than Richardson long term, or even, in short term even, if you really think they are similar quarterbacks. And I don't really see Jones being much of a benefit for Richardson as someone to learn from. Daniel Jones is not a quarterback that I want to groom my young quarterback. He's not going to provide a lot of answers on or off the field. In more football news, this was interesting. I was watching clips yesterday, and Stephen A. Smith was pillaring Cameron Hayward for his stance on Aaron Rodgers. And Hayward thusly had to, I wouldn't say go back on what he said, but he had to clarify what he had said. He said, either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't. It's that simple. That's the pitch. Stephen A. Smith then said, the Steelers haven't been the Steelers for a long time. So you can't really say this is the Steeler football team. This is a storied football team. Because the Steelers haven't done anything, haven't won a playoff game since 2016, 2017? Sorry, guys, they're doing construction next door. I don't know if you can hear that. But the main reason the Steelers haven't won a playoff game in that long is because they haven't had a decent quarterback over that time. Big Ben was on the way out, and then you had a bag of peanuts after that. including Russell Wilson. He's probably the best quarterback they've had since Big Ben, but really not doing enough, and really didn't do enough. So Stephen A. Smith dragged Cameron Hayward, saying you can't say something like that to Aaron Rodgers, about your football team that's supposed to be this marquee team. But the reason they haven't been a marquee team is because they've been getting guys who weren't premier quarterbacks under center. The rest of the team is solid and has been. So bringing in Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers that's not going to make your team better necessarily. And the Steelers do have 6 Super Bowls. So I don't think Hayward should have gone back on what he said. This is the Steelers. And if you wanted the Steelers to be better, you don't bring a guy like Aaron Rodgers in under center. Best Bowling calls us. They're just working on the roster construction. No big deal. That's what it sounds like. Best ball team coming up. I did want to touch on the acquisitions that the Titans made in the past 24 hours. They added a quarterback, probably not one you were expecting. They signed quarterback Tim Boyle, formerly of the Giants. He began the 2024 season on Miami's practice squad. Didn't start, attempted 26 passes for 153 yards before being released. As a Giant, he completed 12 of 24 passes for 123 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. 5 career touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He's like the Kirk Cousins of backup quarterbacks. It's just like he's not performing for you, but you still keep bringing him around. You still keep adding him to rosters. He has a great agent, apparently. So he's there for the Titans, as is James Prochet, formerly of the Browns. He was originally a 6th-round pick of the Ravens. He's been on the Browns for the past 2 seasons, primarily special teams player. He's a body in the wide receiver room for the Titans. More middling, mediocre moves for Tennessee this offseason. I won't talk about it anymore, but what I will talk about is the situation in Minnesota. It seems that the Vikings have kind of slightly walked back their stance on bringing Aaron Rodgers in, or not bringing Aaron Rodgers in, rather. You said they weren't interested. Now, Vikings GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah said the Vikings are very happy with their quarterback room right now. There's always that caveat qualifying the statement. They're happy with their quarterback room right now. So they're still haven't closed the door entirely on Aaron Rodgers. They want J.J. McCarthy to be their guy. They don't want to bring Aaron Rodgers in, allegedly, but they just might have to. McCarthy is currently recovering from a torn meniscus he suffered before the start of last season. If things go well, he should be under center come week 1. The only other quarterback they have on their roster is Brett Rippon. So they're not working with a lot. They're going to need to bring someone in. You know, and now Tim Boyle's off the table. So more drama in the saga of Aaron Rodgers, who looks like he's going to the Steelers. But the door is not closed in Minnesota. So you're saying there's a chance? It looks like there is. The Broncos are bringing back fullback Michael Burton. Burton has spent the past 2 seasons in Denver, played in every game. He's a fullback, though. There's not much as far as fantasy implication goes. Burton did score twice last season on 17 touches for 73 yards in addition to those 2 scores. So it doesn't move the needle in fantasy, but it's good for the Broncos, a team that's already ascending, a team that already has a marquee tight end addition in Evan Ingram, who's going to go bananas this season. Mark my words. The NFL's competition committee has proposed a change to its kickoff rules for the 2025 season. The proposal would move the spotted touchbacks from the 30 to the 35-yard line in hopes of increasing the rate of returns. I mean, the NFL's been finagling with this already. They introduced the dynamic kickoff last season, boosted its rate from 21.8% to 32.8% in 2024 over 2023. It was still the second lowest return rate in NFL history, as only 21% of kicks landed in the 20-yard landing zone. So they're trying to make the game more exciting as far as kick returns go. And maybe this will do it if the teams approve it. It requires the approval of 24 owners. So, you know, as far as special teams leagues go, teams that offer special team yardage and points, this is a boon for them, a feather in their cap, and more power to you. I still probably won't be playing in it, but there you go. And there I go, RosterWatch Nation. Up next, we have Alex and Cody talking about God knows what after yesterday's snoozer of a free agency day. I'm sure they'll come up with something at least that they can fight about, that they can argue about, that they can call each other's names about. I'm sure it'll make for an entertaining show.
This is Anthony Richardson. You're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening